there's always contention around certain books, and there's definitely contention around this book right here. But I will say, without taking too long to let you know, I think this is a fantastic reboot of Batman. This was done exceptionally well. I think if they, I don't like constant reboots, but I think if they stick with this, like don't just let this thing go a few issues, 20 issues, and then reboot again or go to something else. Stick with this. I think they have something. Matt Fraction did an exceptional job on this book as far as the story goes, and Jorge Jimenez really stunning art. Now, I'm gonna say something about the art and about the inks on this book when I get to it. We'll get to that in a second. But one of the things I heard about this book is there was one article that said the title was something like the writer didn't understand who Batman is. I might understand why they said that, but I disagree, especially if you read the book in its entirety. This was actually done well. So let's go to the book. This cover, of course, was done by Jim Lee. And so, okay, you notice the inks on this cover. Jim Lee typically always has, since the 90s. I don't know exactly how they worked this out. I don't know if they got some deal they worked out where these two would always work together. I'm not sure. I don't know. But Jim Lee always seems to have Scott Williams do his inks. And the reason this works so well, here's the issue I have with some modern comics, even the ones where I think the art is done well. Inks go too heavy. And I'll be honest, this is a problem on most modern books. Again, that doesn't make the art bad, but it detracts from the feeling of the art. The art kind of gets lost. It feels like if you've ever created an image, created a thumbnail for a YouTube video. Maybe you didn't. Maybe this might be inside baseball. Sometimes you put certain things behind other things where it's not in a forefront. It's in the background. I think sometimes some inkers go so heavy that the inks come to the foreground and the art goes to the background. And even though the art still looks good, it looks nowhere near as good as it would look if the inks were a lot lighter. And I think a lot of modern inkers need to figure out how to go light on their inks. Now, I don't know if this is just an outgrowth of most things being done digital. I don't think so, because I'm fairly positive Scott Williams and Jim Lee do this digitally and it still looks good. Scott Williams just doesn't go crazy on his inks, trying to overpower Jim Lee's pencil work. And the reason I brought that up is because this panel right here, so when you open this is a great panel. It opens up to Batman looking out of this hole. There's this facility that Killer Croc was in, and he's broken out. Batman is talking to the doctor. Her name is, because I can't remember her, Dr. Zeller. Yeah, I believe it's Dr. Zeller is what her name is. Killer Croc has broken out of this facility. He's been getting helped there by Dr. Zeller. And now he's broken out of this facility. Batman is like, here we go again. They get into this conversation. Dr. Zeller's letting Batman know that, yo, Killer Croc is making progress. He is becoming something better. Batman says something to the effect of, people never change. You're new here. You may not know this, but he hasn't been himself in years. As a matter of fact, he says it in this panel over here. He says, you're new here, Doctor. Killer Croc hasn't been Waylon Jones for a long time. I try to keep them separate in my mind. It's easier that way. So I think this is one of the reasons why some people, because it wasn't just that article I read, I think this is the reason why some people feel like this isn't the Batman they know. But if you stick with the story, if you just stick with it, you really begin to understand what happened and why this is this way. But look at the inks on this pencil work. You notice how the inks don't overtake the pencils? Look, if there's one thing that I think the entire industry to some degree struggles with, and I don't know if it's the modern training of people who do inks. Like I said, I don't know if it's because of the digital age and the way things are inked now, but a lot of modern inkers don't understand. Do not overpower the art going too heavy on the ink. And this book is done perfectly. And the reason I point that out is, now correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I looked at this. So they give you, I think these are all the people, you know, the variant covers and all that different stuff. It goes over all that, the editors, blah, blah, blah. But it lists Matt Fraction as writer, Jorge Jimenez, artist and cover, Tomeu Morey, colors, Clayton Cowles, letters, but it doesn't mention the inker. Now, of course, Scott Williams is on here because I believe, you know, this is the cover he inked with Jim Lee. I don't think he inked the entire book. And I wonder if Jorge Jimenez inked his own work. If so, that makes perfect sense. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. If I'm looking at this wrong, maybe I missed something, didn't pay attention to something. But I believe that this is one of the reasons, if so, why his art works so well in this book. Because, of course, this is his work. He's not going to overpower his own pencils with a bunch of inks. I think this is something that, like I said, people need to figure out. Because heavy inks really, it doesn't destroy good art, but heavy inks turns excellent art into good art. And for me, that's a problem. The Batmobile. The Batmobile in this book is like a mix between what you see in the Batman and a futuristic version of the Batmobile. It's like a good mix. It's not big like the Tumbler. It's not oversized. It's not super elongated like the Batmobile from the 90s. This is perfect. This is perfect. I like it. And you got Vandal Savage as the police commissioner. That's wild. I like the fact that Matt Fraction didn't get verbose in explaining every single thing that happens. This is what I like about certain writers. Even though I haven't been keeping up with Batman lately, as I should, I don't know what happened beforehand. I have no idea why Vandal Savage is the police commissioner. Clearly, there's some things that happened before leading up to this. Jim Gordon is a beat cop. But Matt Fraction didn't get verbose explaining all of those details, and it wasn't necessary. Sometimes people want their story spoon-fed to them. They want everything explained. No, I want to go digging. I want to go digging and figure out why this is going on. I'm glad he took this approach, because what that does is it frees him up to open the story and to just move forward. You don't have to keep going back. Because if that was the case, every issue, you have to explain what happened in the issue before, because not everyone reads every issue. No, you don't have to do that. You don't have to get verbose. Matt Fraction understood that, and he moved forward with the story. You see Batman come in and save these young ladies that were in this park. There were obviously what looks like some Joker acolytes coming to harass them. Batman puts a beat down on these dudes, and he leaves the Batmobile to protect them. Of course, he's hunting down Killer Croc. You see Alfred. Now, originally, I thought Alfred was like some kind of hologram, like he's back at the Batcave. He's, got some technology that projects Alfred wherever he is. No, Alfred is dead. Now, and this offers you a little bit of insight into why Bruce Batman is the way he is right now. You've had the death of all of these people throughout the Batman comic books. His mom and dad being the first, obviously, tragic. Robin, tragic. And now Alfred. And from what I gather, doing a little digging, listening to Rob from Comics Explain, I believe I believe he said, if I'm not mistaken, that Alfred was killed by Bane in some previous issues before this relaunch and this number one. So that kind of gives you some insight into why Bruce is slightly jaded. You can't really blame him for that. People get lost in the fact that Batman is so awesome that we forget that Batman is a human hero. He's not superhuman. Now, of course, there's many fan theories about superhuman intellect, which I kind of wish DC would explore that a little bit, but I'm glad they don't. I'm honestly glad they don't. I like the fact that Batman, we identify with Batman more easily for the same reason we identify with characters like Iron Man, even though, Iron Man and Batman both, billionaires and they got all this tech. Okay, yeah, different, but they're human. They don't have any kind of powers. This is why I also love the comic book character Hardware from the 90s. Another book, if you're looking for some back issues, something to read that's really good from back in the day, go find DC Milestone's Hardware and you're welcome. If you've never read it, it is a great read. A great read. I love that book. That whole Milestone universe. I love all of that stuff. It was all good. So Bruce finds Killer Croc. Batman, he finds Killer Croc, right? He puts on his bat gauntlets. Electro charged personal nullifiers. That is such a great name. I love that. I was like, oh yeah, this is fire. But in the course of having a conversation, he realizes at some point, oh, there's something else going on in Killer Croc. I don't have to fight him right now. And they have a conversation. He even takes off his mask. And like I said, this is where you begin to understand Batman's stance earlier on in the book. He's jaded. Who wouldn't be? But this is where he comes back to reality. Like, these are all people, even villains. They're people. This is part of what makes Batman Batman. He doesn't go easy on them, but he understands these are people. Things can change. Yo, great story. Matt Fraction, great story. This was done well. Of all of the reboots that I've seen, of all of the different books, I think this is probably one of the better ones, one of the better reboots. And I hope that Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez go for a number of issues. Now, obviously, people like to get on different books, and I understand that. And I hope DC figures out a way to keep Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez on this for the long haul, as long as they can. At least, this might be asking for much, at least 30 or 40 issues, at least, before bringing someone else in. And whoever else they bring in, I hope they're as good as this is right here, because this was done well. And of all reboots, just like I said earlier, this is one of the better ones. A super enjoyable book. If you're on the fence looking for something good to read, this is a good one.